Night House is a drama kind of horror movie starring Rebecca Hall. In this movie here, she plays a teacher who her husband recently committed suicide, and she's dealing with the personal grief from that. I would say the trailer for this movie really doesn't do this movie enough service, because I think the trailer of it. I mean, I get trailers are supposed to, kind of get a large amount of people. You're supposed to get the most amount of people it can. So if you were just to see the trailer, you would think it's kind of like this very generic type horror movie, which is kind of what I thought. Kind of be like this generic ghost story horror
What?
movie.
You thought that from that trailer?
I don't know. I thought
That trailer scared the shit out of me, bro.
oh
Especially when she was looking at that column, and I was like, "Is that a outline of a face?" And then it turned, and I was like, "See, no, we can't do that.
yeah.
No."
And and then actually watching the movie, first and foremost, it's this a drama. It's a story about this woman who's trying to really come to terms with her husband's suicide and why he did it, and really searching for answers. And she's going through the stuff and trying to find out kind of what all led up to it. And Rebecca Hall does an amazing job in this movie. She really does. I mean, the kind of performance she lays on and the grief that you see her with is really, really impressive. And like Jenna mentioned, there's some scenes in here like you see in the trailer where like you see kind of the silhouette in certain objects. That is really creepy. When you actually see it in the movie, it's like, yeah, I mean, this whole movie this horror movie is kind of one of the better horror movies I've seen in some years, because it really does creep you out very, very, very effective.
Nice.
It does a very, very great job like
That's
that.
to my list.
And it doesn't do any cheap things, you know what I mean, as far as like jump scares. I think there's maybe like one in here. And it's very, very tense too throughout the whole movie, when she's constantly trying to discover more and more things about what's happening. And when she's trying to investigate, and she figures out these things about her husband and like what was he doing, and maybe he had this whole other secret life, and then this whole element of like the Night House, because like he was building this other house for them to live in, and it was it was unfinished. And just kind of just like the whole element of like her trying to interact with him, and even if he is still there, I thought was very, very interesting and very good. And kind of this movie is somewhat of a little bit of a metaphor for also like things like depression, things like grief, things like life after death, which I thought was very interesting. And it was really kind of really thrilling and kind of really creepy to watch. I would even say scary. And I usually don't get scared in horror movies. When people talk about they talk about horror movies in terms of like, well, how scary it was, I'm like, well, what you getting scared for? The shit not real. What you getting scared for? But you know what I mean. But like in terms of something like this, it's like, yeah, I mean, this does a really, really good job at building that tension, playing out those horror moments that are really good and not in a cheap way. And I thought it was very, very effective. And yeah, I mean, for me, and this was kind of one of my, kind of the most surprising movie of the year for me, and kind of would be on my list. I have to see how the rest of the year shakes out, but it might be on my best of list. This ending year. So for me, I'd give it a strong, maybe 9 or 8 out of 10 for me.
This movie has been getting a lot of positive reviews. This is probably the only movie risk go in a theater and sit in an empty theater just to be scared. Like I feel like I feel like the atmosphere of that film and the sound design in that film is probably freaking amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah.
I'm glad that it's getting all these reviews. That and Candy, those are my two films I was really excited for.
Yeah. Because I think it does a really, really great job. I recommend people go see it. It's a smaller movie. The director of this movie, his name is David Bruckner. Really great job from him. And the screenplay is written by Ben Collins and Luke Poskorsky. So yeah, I mean, I think this movie is kind of one of the definitely better horror movies I've seen in the past couple of years.